In a mysterious underground cave in Guangxi Province, China, two divers were slowly ascending from a depth of 100 meters. Suddenly, one of them lost consciousness and began to drift away. His companion, in a panic, tried desperately to catch up with him, but the man vanished in an instant. This is the true story of the Guangxi Jiudong Cave incident. Tucked away in the upper reaches of the Chengjiang River Basin, in Jiudong village of Duxiang Township in Guangxi Province, lies a place both enigmatic and mesmerizing, the Jiudong Cave. Not only does it serve as one of the primary sources of the Chengjiang River, but it has also gained considerable attention as a popular tourist destination. This area resembles a mystical underground river museum. Among them, the Jiudong Cave stands out as the most famous, often dubbed the underwater Mount Everest. This title is no exaggeration. The underground river cave where Jiudong Cave resides has a distinctive Y shape, with two main water outlets to the north and south. The southern cave is a relatively gentle route, resembling a passage carefully crafted by nature. In stark contrast, the northern cave is a labyrinth of sharp turns, making it far more treacherous and demanding great skill and mental fortitude from divers. Even today, this cave retains much of its mystery. Though not fully explored, its depth is speculated to exceed 300 meters, further adding to its allure. This captivating environment has long drawn cave diving enthusiasts from across the globe. However, as more adventurers sought to explore its depths, accidents inevitably followed. In mid-April 2014, 3 Chinese divers, Yuan, Wang Tao, and Zhou Pei, arrived at the Jiudong Cave. Just a month earlier, French diver Pascal Benepeau had extended the guiding rope to 160 meters at the north water outlet, and the 3 divers aimed to break his record by extending it further to 170 meters. On April 17th, they began to descend to set up decompression gas tanks. These tanks were necessary because when diving to great depths, a rapid ascent could cause decompression sickness due to a sudden change in pressure, which could result in unconsciousness. Thus, divers must ascend slowly, switching to different gas tanks at various stages, with mandatory stops for decompression. Once the gas tanks were set up, the next day, they began their descent, determined to reach 170 meters. At 21 meters, Zhou Pei stayed behind to provide support, while Wang Yuan and Wang Tao continued their descent along the guiding rope. Due to continuous rainfall, the underwater visibility was extremely poor, at just around 2 meters. 12 minutes later, they reached 75 meters and switched to the first stage gas tanks. They continued to a depth of 100 meters, where the visibility dropped to only 50 centimeters. By 110 meters, visibility improved to 3 meters. The descent proceeded relatively smoothly, and they soon reached 164 meters. However, as they were setting up the guiding rope, Wang Yuan began to feel rapid breathing and a slight tingling sensation. Early symptoms of nitrogen narcosis. For safety reasons, the pair decided to return along the guiding rope immediately. When they reached 130 meters, they were shocked to find that the guiding rope had disappeared. It was likely that a knot had come undone, causing the rope to break. Without the rope, they would have difficulty finding their gas replacement points, and with their gas supplies running low, they grew anxious. After a brief moment of calm, they began to feel their way up along the slanted rock wall. Luckily, the rope had not broken off for long, and they were able to find it again at 120 meters. But with the earlier confusion and the growing panic, their gas was rapidly depleting. Wang Yuan switched to the main gas tank and prepared to ascend. But just then, Wang Tao signaled that his gas tank was empty. Although Wang Yuan was baffled by the speed at which Wang Tao had consumed his gas, he immediately passed his regulator to Wang Tao. The two shared a single tank, planning to ascend to 75 meters to replace it. Since the tank would only last 3 to 4 minutes, their ascent rate increased, setting the stage for tragedy. When they reached around 90 meters, Wang Yuan stopped to check the gas level in their tank. As he did, he noticed that Wang Tao had suddenly detached from the regulator and was floating upwards, without making any attempt to grab the rock wall. Wang Yuan realized that Wang Tao was likely experiencing narcosis, so he hurried to chase after him along the rope. But after a dozen meters, he had still not caught up. With his own gas nearly depleted, Wang Yuan had no choice but to ascend to 75 meters to replace the tank. After switching tanks, he continued searching for Wang Tao, swimming back and forth between 75 and 90 meters, but he could not find him. Several minutes later, Wang Yuan feared the worst. Wang Tao was likely dead. With his own gas running low, his survival instincts and growing panic led him to ascend rapidly. At 50 meters, he grabbed a new gas tank and quickly swam toward Zhou Pei, who was at 21 meters. By this point, Wang Yuan no longer cared about decompression stops, which caused nitrogen and helium in his body to rapidly form bubbles and expand. His joints screamed with pain, and his consciousness began to fade, but he fought through it and reached Zhou Pei, signaling that Wang Tao had separated from him. Zhou Pei was shocked and angrily shouted at Wang Yuan, as if blaming him for not continuing the search. Afterward, Zhou Pei ignored Wang Yuan and dove down alone to search for Wang Tao. After some time, Zhou Pei returned, visibly despondent, clearly having failed to find him. Wang Yuan signaled to Zhou Pei that he was near his breaking point. Zhou Pei immediately began assisting Wang Yuan with decompression. During this period, Zhou Pei tried to dive again to search for Wang Tao, but was stopped by Wang Yuan, who needed someone to keep watch over him. Later, Zhou Pei suggested that Wang Yuan stay and decompress while he went to the surface to call for help, but Wang Yuan refused to let him go. Finally, after more than an hour had passed since Wang Tao went missing, Wang Yuan completed decompression. Zhou Pei helped him back to the surface. Once on the surface, Wang Yuan briefly recounted the events to Zhou Pei, who immediately alerted the authorities with the help of bystanders. A search team was quickly formed, and divers soon located Wang Tao's body. Tragically, he had already passed. Wang Tao's body was found in a horizontal passage at 51 meters, likely carried there by the upward flow of water, wedged between rocks. His regulator was missing, his arms outstretched in a relaxed position, with no signs of struggle. It is believed that he lost consciousness first, then drowned. This accident, I believe, was caused by several key errors. First, the divers were overly confident and lacked sufficient mental preparation for potential dangers. Second, they lacked adequate resources and professional team support. Third, Wang Tao had not rehearsed this scenario and, after losing the guiding rope, became panicked, mistakenly thinking all his gas tanks were empty, despite having a second stage tank. His panic caused him to forget to switch tanks. The rescue team later found that his second stage tank was almost full. Fourth, their rapid ascent caused decompression sickness, especially for Wang Tao. And fifth, their gas supply was insufficient. In essence, these 5 errors all stemmed from a lack of experience. However, does experience guarantee safety? Over the next decade, 3 more people tragically died in this very cave, including the famous Chinese cave diver, Han Ting. This further underscores the inherent complexity and danger of cave diving. To safely complete a cave dive, one needs not only experience but also thorough preparation, proper team coordination, stable underwater conditions, and even luck. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.